Hey, this is Ciderhelm. We're going to be looking at Elise the Spider Queen today, and we're going to be looking specifically at ability mechanics and how she scales and how she works as a champion, and some interesting things you can do with her. So let's just go ahead and dive right in. Now, she is a champion. Ability power scales entirely with ability power, has no abilities that scale with attack damage, and there's really going to be no reason at all ever to build her for attack damage. She has two forms, so similar to Nidalee and Jace, she has a human form and a spider form. Right now we're in the human form. This is her skin. My wife here is playing with the default skin, and I'm playing with the Death Blossom or Deathload. I think it's Death Blossom or something. Maybe it's not called that. Anyway, here we go. So this is a human form, and on a 4-second cooldown, again, very, very short like Jace, has no cost or anything. We can just switch forms. We can switch right back out. Go straight back into our spider form, and there's some interesting things with our spider form. You'll see there's two little spiders. We'll talk about those later. And let's go ahead and switch right back out. So, relatively decent movement speed in her caster form, which is 310. But as soon as we switch over forms, we actually gain a boost in movement speed. So, right off the bat with spider form, we have decent movement speed. It's not on the highest end, but it's certainly not bad. And then we're also looking at 550 attack range in human form. Here's her attack and attack animation. Nothing spectacular, but not bad. I guess it's rare that I think something is just outright bad. Yeah, nothing spectacular. Range not spectacular, but again, not bad. Pretty standard stuff. And then we switch over into melee form. Same thing, just 125. Very, very standard for melee champions. Not extraordinary. There are a few extraordinary champions, but she is not one of them in that sense. Like Jace, both of her forms are immediately available. Switching forms cost nothing. The cooldown is 4 seconds. I think we already covered that. The cooldowns are totally independent between the two stances. So in here we have cooldown. Let's see what I can cast here. Launch that, launch this. Those are my human form abilities. Switch over, and then I can do these abilities, no problem. Okay. So let's actually... Oh, and the other thing about the spider form is all of her abilities in spider form, they have no cost associated with them. There is no mana that you have to worry about in spider form. So that's something certainly to keep in mind. But she does have mana constraints while she's in caster form, obviously. And there is some play between the two stances that requires you to use the caster form effectively to really be most effective in spider form. Okay, so let's talk about our abilities, and I'll start with the human form abilities. Before we get into any of the actual abilities, let's talk about spiders. We have these two little spiders with us at the beginning, but now we don't have them. Here's why, or here's how we get them. Any spell you cast while in human form, as long as it hits a target, will grant you a charge. And we have a little bit of latency, by the way, on the PvE. Hopefully it's a PvE. We have a pretty decent chunk of latency, so there will be some delays between what I do in this video. But anyway, any of those spells, they will give me charges. These are right here, right above. It's called Spider Swarm. As we get those charges, right now I have 2 of them. It means when I switch into spider form, I'm going to have these 2 little spiders. That's all it does. Can only be done in human form, and that's what I'm talking about the play between the human form and the spider form. To get these spider charges, you have to have success landing your spells in human form. She also, if she dies, she respawns with the max spider charges. She starts the game with the max at the time, which is 2. So not that exciting. You get them pretty easily, just you have to keep it in mind. The spiders can be killed fairly easily, a little harder later in the game. Alright, let's talk about human form Neurotoxin. Deals magic damage equal to 50 plus 8%, or in this case 9% of the target's current health, max 60 bonus damage to monsters. It's a targeted nuke, very, very straightforward. Any target that we have, as long as we're in range. Decent range, and nothing too special about the range. Again, very, very straightforward spell. Percentage increases at a rate of about, or at a rate of 2% of your ability power, which doesn't seem like much. 2% of your ability power, very low ratio, obviously, but since it is actually a percentage that it's adding onto the base percentage, it winds up being pretty strong, and you're going to get a decently high percentage with ability power combined here. So, costs 60 mana, has a 6-second cooldown. That obviously can get pretty... That cooldown gets pretty low, especially with cooldown reduction, or with cooldown reduction it does. The damage is capped against monsters, as you saw, which means it's still going to be strong against, like, Baron Nashor or Dragon, but it's not going to be, like, amazingly overpowered the way it would be, given the type of ability it is. So, There's not much to say about this ability other than you want to do it earlier in a fight rather than later, though obviously if you just have it later in a fight you should still cast it, but it's certainly going to be more effective the more health they have. Again, equal to, in this case, 9% of the target's current health. Not their max health and not their health missing, their current health. So if a person has 5,000 health, and then you're going to take 10% off that, you'll take 500 health off of them. If they have 3,000 health, but they previously had 5,000, so they lost 2,000, you're only going to take 300 health off them. So it's something to certainly keep in mind. It's something you want to use earlier in a fight rather than later. Which is kind of how her spider form as a whole just works. Her human form as a whole just works. You want her human form abilities really for initiation. You tend to want her spider form for kind of closing the deal, sealing the deal. It's not quite as stance-dancey as a champion like Jace can be, or Nidalee for that matter can be. It really is. This is your initiation form, your human form. Okay, so next ability we're going to be looking at is Volatile Spiderling. This is kind of an interesting little skill shot we can do. I'll just give you an example of it real quick. Actually, I'll read it real quick. Summons a Venom Gorge Spiderling that moves to a target location and explodes, dealing 75 plus 32 magic damage when it nears an enemy after 3 seconds. Okay, very straightforward, but it does have kind of a cool mechanic. This is a skill shot, and you notice how I'm not actually going to hit here. I am purposely aiming it off, but watch this. Goes to the end, and then it will actually do a little bit of pathing on its own. Once it reaches its destination, it'll just go towards Inera in this case. It'll just walk right over to them and explode, and it's AoE damage. When I'm talking about charges you get off of, or spider charges you get, when I was talking about that earlier, the explosion counts as one hit of your spell regardless of how many enemies you hit. So you can't just like launch it at 5 minions and get the entire, all your spiders charged instantly off it. But still, it's pretty cool in that regard. It's decent AoE damage. We're looking at a 0.8 ability power ratio. For an AoE spell, that's really not bad. By the way, you're getting killed. Yes. Now, this has a 12-second cooldown, 65 to 85 mana, depending on the rank. So, obviously, it does increase in the mana cost. It can't go through walls, so let's like stand here, and I'm going to cast, actually I'm going to do it somewhere that's a little more easy to see for people. This is the new Twisted Treeline map. I know some people are going to ask about this, and yeah, this is the new Twisted Treeline map. I actually have to figure out where stuff is here, so let's just pass this right on over. And it can't, hopefully... That was interesting. It looked like it was standing next to me, but then it exploded over here as though it was trying to path over there. Well... There, you saw it here first. And let me get a thinner little wall here just to make sure that we're seeing this correctly. If I can find one. Ah! What's a spider doing in there? I don't think I can agree with spiders. Alright, let's do it right here. Yeah, there it's just pathing around. So it cannot go through walls. The only reason that's important is because the one other thing that this does that is fairly important, is important to how you play her. It does... What does it look like I can see in this brush already? Yeah, I gotta get used to the new map here. Anyway, it gives vision. That's all I'm trying to say. So it goes into a bush, it gives vision, acts as a little mine. It's very brief. You can't just leave it in there. It explodes after a few seconds anyway. But it does give you vision. It's just you can't like be sitting on Summoner's Rift in mid lane, walk over to the side lane. This is why I bring this up. You can't be at mid lane, walk over to the side and try to launch it into the bush right next to you to get vision on people in the bush. Main thing is the spider's just not going to go all the way around and get there in time for it to be of any use to you. So it does give vision, but it's situational vision, not always going to be helpful. You can't use it to get vision on the next monster pack in the jungle or things like that either. Well, you can, but it depends on the situation. Anyway, let's move on to the next ability. Alright, final human form ability is Cocoon. Stuns the first enemy hit for 1.5 seconds. Now this is the same 1.5 seconds at all ranks. This is just a straight skill shot. It's kind of like Lux or Morgana if you're used to those skill shots. Very similar except that it's a stun, not just an immobilize. So it's actually just flat out better in that sense. It's just going to be more effective. Doesn't do any damage of any sort though. Straightforward. There's a stun. I stunned. That's what it does. Nothing too exciting about it, but that's what it does. Starts with a 14-second cooldown and reduces down to 10 seconds with rank, 65 mana. There is nothing complex about this. If you land the skill shot, great. If not, that sucks. Alright, let's talk about spider form and transforming into it, which is essentially the ultimate. When Elise goes into spider form, she gains armor, magic resist, and bonus magic damage on her normal attacks, and these all scale with the rank of her ultimate. Additionally, she summons spiders based on the number of charges gained in human form, and the maximum number of spiders she can have also scales with the rank of her ultimate. So in this case we have 2, but if I level this up once, we can suddenly have 3. Although again, I do have to cast a spell. Now I have 3. So when I switch over into this form, now I have 3 spiders. Also, you can't stop the spiders, and you should kill my spiders. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about the spider mechanics a little bit later here, because I want to get into the abilities first. Now, on top of all this, she moves faster, which we already mentioned, in spider form, and she deals bonus magic damage on her attacks equal to a base amount, depending on the rank of her ultimate, plus 10% of her ability power. So this is just bonus damage on all her attacks that she gets that she didn't otherwise have. Little magic damage coming off there. And on top of this, this works against towers, which is fantastic. Now, her spiders all gain the same bonus magic damage, except that's her only attack. So let's go ahead and talk about her spider form abilities. The Q, Venomous Bite. Now again, all these have no cost, and this is a 6-second cooldown, the exact same as the Q in her human form, which the W is the same way. W is 12 seconds, exact same as human form W. The E is the only one that's different. The E in spider form is much longer. Anyway, Q, Venomous Bite. Lunges to a target with a poisonous bite that deals magic damage equal to 50 plus 8% plus 1% of the target's missing health, max 60 bonus damage to monsters. This is identical. In terms of the damage it deals, it's identical to the Q in human form, except instead of being based on current health, it's based on the currently missing health, which means it gets stronger and stronger the lower health the target is. That's the play between the two Qs, and they have the same cooldown again, which is, the whole thing is just kind of an interesting dynamic, at least how they've presented it. Whereas the human form, do it when they're higher on health, spider form, do it when they're lower on health. That's definitely how you want to approach this, because you're just going to deal more damage doing it that way. It is a little lunge. I think it's a really, really short-range lunge. So it's really something that when somebody's just barely outpacing you, it's going to be helpful there, or when you're already just dueling somebody and you really want to use it for the damage, it's going to be helpful there, but it's not going to be something that is going to be like an extra flash or anything like that. It is a very short range. You might be able to get a little bit of an escape mechanism out of this, you know, go after a minion or another target or whatever, but really this is just to keep you on a target and to get the damage out. Skittering Frenzy, this is the W. Spiderlings, okay, passively, it gives her Spiderlings bonus attack speed. And then actively, it increases attack speed by 60% for Elise, and that increases dramatically by rank. I think it goes up to like 140% bonus attack speed. Increases attack speed by 60% for Elise and her Spiderlings for 3 seconds. While active, Elise is healed for 4+1 health when your Spiderlings attack. So this one's very, very straightforward again. 2% of ability power is the scaling on this as far as the healing goes, but mainly this is a huge buff for when you and your spiders are attacking somebody and you want to get more damage out, or you really need to get that healing out. But certainly this does offer you a little bit of sustain, because your attacks and all your spiderlings are going to be attacking and healing at the same time at a very, very fast rate. So small amount of heal, but good healing nonetheless. Good sustain over time. Alright. Rappel, this is her final spider form ability and her most mechanically important ability, a mechanically interesting ability. Elise goes up in the air and becomes untargetable. Just like that. And then I have a bunch of targeting reticules with people I can target here. Untargetable. From what we've seen, this can disjoint attacks and spells and prevent damage, just like Fizz or Vladimir or Fiora's ultimate. It'll drop things if you have like Oriana's Ball on you. It'll instantly drop Oriana's Ball. You're not going to be able to receive spells while you're up there. You know, it's untargetable. It's a rare mechanic in League of Legends. It's a very powerful mechanic for keeping you alive and getting you out of tight situations, or getting out of, most importantly, often initiation abilities. So that's very cool. Now, if you go up in the air, you don't target anything while you're up in the air. You're just going to come right back down after 2 seconds, and kind of like Fizz, you jump on your little trident thing and then you fall right back down, or you can fall in a direction. Yeah, you just come right back down. Not a whole lot to that. While in the air, this is kind of cool, you have total vision. So let's... Notice when I went up, suddenly I can see these minions over here, the monsters over here, and I can see my opponent with no problem. This actually gives you total vision, which means if you're going through the jungle and, like, let's say you just want to get to the blue buff, or let's say you're at the blue buff and you've got an opponent coming around the edge and you know they're there, if you jump up into the air, you will actually be able to see around terrain and jump over terrain to get to them. You can also see inside of bushes, you know, see through fog of war, etc. Could you walk in a bush real quick? That's a bush. Okay. So again, any bushes that are within the range, you can see in them. So now here's the other thing. And would you jump up in the air? Spider form and then press E.
On you?
Nah, just up. So you can see here, she's jumped up in the air, and I get a big circle around me saying, okay, they're in the air, you've got to watch out, you're within this targeting area, she can target you and come back down, or she can go anywhere else too. And on top of that, she can see you. So when you see that, and you're playing against an Elise, that's what you've got to watch out for. You see that big circle, you are not going to be able to get out of vision of this person, and they can target you. Keep in mind that you're not getting out of vision, because that's probably the more important thing here. It's going to be obvious when they're going to be able to target you, but not so obvious when you just cannot get out of sight. So I think pro players are really going to make the most use out of the E in terms of like mechanically cool things that you can pull off with it. Now while you're in the air, okay, so let's say you have Oracle's Elixir. Oracle's Elixir will still work at the limited range of Oracle's Elixir. It doesn't show everything, like any stealth in the entire area, but it still works while she's in the air. So that's another thing, like stealth is not going to de-stealth because you've gone up in the air and become untargetable. Or stealth is not going to actually stealth, I should say. Anyway, so we've talked about the vision, we've talked about those mechanics. Now let's talk about what you actually do with this. Jump up in the air, target, and you can actually target somebody, drop right on... Ow. Ow. You can drop right on top of them and then start attacking them. Now, from what I've seen, I haven't done a whole lot of testing on this. Mechanically, some abilities will work differently, like they'll go behind a target if such and such is the case. They'll go in front of a target if such and such is the case. From what I've seen, it always takes you to the far side of the target from where you are currently standing. Regardless of whether they're running away from you, running towards you, or anything, you always drop down on the far side of them. The other thing to keep in mind is when you drop down, you do not have an auto attack, you do not have a spell that's just going to automatically hit them and deal damage to them, which can be helpful if you don't want to like draw tower aggro or something like that and you just want to chase. But it's also, you have to actively make sure that you do have auto attack on or whatever else to actually finish somebody off, because just dropping on them does nothing. And I only say that because it's kind of important when you feel like you should get damage off, but then suddenly you don't. Suddenly you wind up attacking something different or anything like that. An example being like Rengar when he would jump out of the bush and then his auto attack wouldn't fire, and that was a quality of life thing. It's not quite the same. This isn't quite that bad, but just do keep that in mind. This ability has the longest cooldown of any of her abilities. Starts at 26 seconds, goes down to 18 seconds. It is very significantly longer than anything else. But you do have to keep in mind, it's got a lot of uses. It's got the vision uses, it's got the escape potential, like in the jungle, you need to get to something. A lot of movement potential, and it's a pretty long range. So it's certainly worth keeping in mind. Your spiders come down wherever you are too. Alright, let's talk about Elise's spiders. These spiders deal damage through normal attacks, and this is the same amount of damage Elise gains on her normal attacks in spider form. Again, meaning a base amount plus 10% of her ability power. Additionally, they gain health based on Elise's level. Keep in mind this is not the same as the rank of her ultimate. Spiders can take damage from anything and do not need to be specifically targeted. However, they take reduced secondary damage from AoE and multi-target abilities, and the amount reduced is increased with rank. Now, spiders will attack whoever's closest, or whoever Elise attacks or uses an ability against. Spiders will attack towers and they will deal damage to towers. However, if they attack a tower, the tower will instantly begin targeting them, regardless of if there are minions around or not. And regardless of their health. Now, the spiders, I think they start at about 125 and they end at 550. So a decently high amount of health that they end up with. But towers will always kill a spider with a single shot. No question about it. If a spider attacks a tower, or otherwise there's aggro from the tower on the spiders. If a spider attacks a tower, that spider is going to die unless there are a lot of spiders and there's a queue of spiders ready to die. That said, with multiple spiders, they will buy several seconds of attacks against the structure from Elise and the remaining spiders, and they can also briefly shield Elise from tower attacks if she needs to get past enemy turrets. This will definitely be something we'll be seeing at pro level play. So, spiders are very weak at the beginning and can be harassed down easily. They're always weak around towers, and Elise players should be careful not to let them get picked off at a tower without a purpose. So there's some things to think about when you're playing Elise, as we're going around and doing whatever we're doing. Oh, sneaky. Like this. There's some things you want to think about. One thing, the human form is, again, always what you want to use for initiation. This has your CC, it has your ability to get charges, it does have the current health Q, non-execute, opposite of execute, does more damage when they're at higher health, is definitely what you want to use for initiation, but that doesn't mean that you always want to be in human form when a fight's about to break out. The main thing about staying in spider form, the main reason you'd want to stay in spider form, is you have higher movement speed. That's the key to it. So if you're traveling around the map and you want to really fine-tune your performance when you're moving between lanes, when you know you're safe, otherwise you want to stay in spider form, and then before you need to initiate, before you need to combo, switch back into human form right then, and then use your combo, and then if you time it just right, you'll be able to get right back into spider form as soon as you need to. So that's certainly something I see happening. I do see Elise as being potentially a very strong jungler. Whether she's amazing or not, I guess I'd have to look at what Stonewall and other junglers are seeing right now. But it does seem like all of her abilities, or most of her abilities, actually do serve a purpose in the jungle and would actually be helpful. She's got that small bit of sustain. Small bit of sustain always winds up being very, very helpful in the jungle, especially the way this is set up. The ability, yeah, I basically think she's going to be a pretty good jungler, so that's what I'd end up saying there. And that doesn't mean she would be a bad laner or something, but I do try to look at, is this potentially a good jungler? And certainly she has the hallmarks of many good junglers. So I expect to see her played there. Whether or not that's going to be the most successful way to play her, who knows? You want to avoid, obviously I've talked about this, you want to avoid getting your spiders killed on towers because they can easily get picked off by towers. I was actually a little bit surprised to see, I'm under a tower and suddenly all of my spiders are gone, and I didn't actually think it was going to happen that quickly. But it's just a tiny little misstep. Now certainly the scouting with the... I actually don't have it right now because I haven't leveled. But using your your little volatile spiderling to do a little bit of scouting in bushes, again, it's situationally you're not going to be able to use it that often just because it has to path around stuff. But it's certainly something you do want to just keep an eye on. Uses for that extra vision. It's always useful to have that extra vision. I don't think that she's quite the way like Jace is in terms of just bringing all sorts of amazing utility, whereas she brings more of a focused damage. But she's not like Jason having like an easy Lee Sin combo in the sense of target somebody here, do something that makes the initiation easier for the team, or the acceleration gate. She doesn't have analogs to that. She really is a combo champion that is really more directly about dealing damage. And she does have a little bit of CC, particularly that stun skill shot. The skill shot part of it, of course, is always going to make it both stronger. It doesn't always mean it's stronger, but in this case it's a pretty strong CC, but certainly more risky. So a lot of stuff to see from there, but I wouldn't look at her as an analog to Jace. She just has some similar mechanics to Jace. I wouldn't be surprised, although, who knows, I wouldn't be surprised to see if they made some changes to Nidalee at some point, just because they now have Jace and Elise that are working with this level 1 switching forms. We'll see. I've seen some people present good arguments of why you can't do that with Nidalee, but I'm not totally convinced. We'll see what the developers are doing, though. Both of your forms do have escapes, and that's, of course, I've mentioned this several times at this point. Both of your forms have escape mechanisms. In terms of your human form, your primary escape mechanism is land your stun. And as far as leveling and as far as like building items, I think there's going to be some diversity of item builds as far as like different things you can do with ability power builds, cooldown reduction, etc. There will be some diversity there, but not a whole lot. Not the way you can see from, say, a lot of attack damage champions, where there's a little bit more diversity, I think, particularly in how bruisers build compared to AD casters, compared to AD carries, etc. There is some diversity there, so I don't think you're going to see quite as much here. You're going to want to go with a pretty standard build. I could be wrong, but that's my hunch right now based on this. Now, as far as leveling and abilities, I'm not totally sure on how this is going to go. The Q and the W both look somewhat competitive. I think the W edges out the Q just a little, except the Q brings a little bit more burst. Let's talk about some of the numbers just real quick here. So the Q in each form, what scales is the base damage on it. And this is, again, the the opposite of an execute ability plus the execute ability in both forms. They're both on short cooldowns, but the cooldowns don't change. What does change here is the base damage goes up a bit by level, and then the max damage to monsters goes up significantly by level. So maybe junglers might want to go this way, but the W in both forms is also good in the jungle. So I'm not totally sold on whether the Q is going to be the first thing you level up or the second thing you level up. Now let's look at the W here. The base damage also goes up in this case, and this is AoE, so that actually is even a little better because the base damage is going up even more in this case. So in this case it goes up by 45, in this case it goes up by a flat 50. And let's switch over to spider form here. And the attack speed and the passive attack speed jumps up dramatically by rank in the W here. Whereas again the Q, the only thing is the base damage goes up a little bit. So I'm not totally sure how the math is going to line up, how it's going to work in the jungle, but I think the W is going to be priority number 1, Venomous Bite priority number 2, and then the E, Rappel and Cocoon. Rappel and Cocoon, they both do what they're advertised to do. They both have long cooldowns, even at max rank. Now the cooldown is reduced by rank, but even at max rank, you're likely only going to use these once, except in the longest team fights, or in the longest fights or longest chases. You're likely really only going to use these a single time in a fight. Maybe Cocoon twice if you initiate and then the fight's still going on 10 seconds later at max rank. But they have their full effect beyond that right off the bat. 1 point in this early. I don't think you're going to want to level this until last. And the alt, I think you're probably going to want to level, every time you get an opportunity to. So, my opinion, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking R and then W, then Q, and then E last, with 1 point in E early. Obviously 1 point in all of them early, except for the alt, because you get a point in that for free. So that's what I'm thinking. But the Q and the W, they might be swapped. Somebody more determined than me will have to figure that out. Anyway, I appreciate you guys watching this. Yeah.